I'm Alpha Blackburn. Indianapolis is the 11th largest metropolitan area in the nation. Yet in many parts of the country, it's still considered to be a racetrack surrounded by cornfields. Well, obviously, it's more than that. Lots more. Indianapolis is progressive and conservative. It's modern, yet over 150 years old. It's a large city, but in many respects it has the feel, the atmosphere of a small town. It's the kind of city where 19th century architecture can share a block with the stark form and look of a contemporary structure. These sound like contradictions, but as a matter of fact, they're not. Indianapolis is all of these things, and more.
Tonight, we'll look at why Indianapolis has emerged as one of the fastest growing and most dynamic cities in the country. We'll see how Indianapolis is reflected in the eyes of its citizens, the shadows of the past, the images of the present, the mirror of the future. Reflections of a city. First, the city as it was. In 1820, state officials met at William Connor's farm and decided to move the capital from Corydon to its present, more centralized site. The national road, now US 40, reached the fledgling city during the 1830s, linking us to the world back east. The state nearly went bankrupt building a system of canals before the railroads made them obsolete. The nation's first Union Railroad depot was built where Union Station now stands. During the Civil War years, we began to experience 19th century urban sprawl on the fringes of the original 4-mile square. Before the turn of the century, prosperity brought splendid new buildings to the city. With the advent of the gasoline engine in the 20th century, the city soon boasted over 60 automobile manufacturers. The Depression and World War II brought hard times, but prosperity reappeared in the post-war years. As the population neared 500,000, we experienced the growing pains of suburban sprawl and inner-city erosion. In 1969, the Indiana General Assembly voted to consolidate the governments of the city and the county. Called Unigov, the plan became the center of enormous controversy. Proponents said it would end costly duplication of services and bring more efficient administration, while opponents said it would continue to drive people out of the center city, damaging the tax base and dissipating the black vote. In the late 60s and the early 70s, redevelopment began in the downtown area and continues today, combining the traditional conservative Hoosier approach to change with dynamic modern concepts of urban planning. Early state leaders could not have foreseen how important was the location they chose for the new state capital. The central site is today equally attractive to business and industry as it was then.
I think that one of the fundamental things we have going for us is geography. We don't have a beautiful beach like Miami. We don't have a beautiful bay like San Francisco. We don't have beautiful mountains like Denver, but we do have a beautiful location. You take the 100 major cities in the United States and measure the distance from any one of them to the other 99. We have the least cumulative distance. That means it is least expensive to hold a convention here, you know, if you're flying in from all over the United States. This is why we've been called for many years the Crossroads of America. That's the city's motto. You look out of my window here at the interstate system. We have more interstates intersecting here than any other city in the United States. We have a very good airport, and it is international in its status. We can, I think, and must exploit our potential as a transportation center, as a hub for distribution. I think that the founding fathers 100 years ago and more were very wise to put the capital city in the central location that they did, right in the center of the state. And I really feel that this is an important asset that sometimes we take for granted, but we should maximize.
We may be at the crossroads of America, but merely being in a good geographic location isn't enough. To attract business and industry, you need more to sell than just good access.
When the expansion took place a couple of years ago at Detroit Diesel Allison, I asked some of the higher-ups from Detroit who were visiting that day at the plant dedication why they decided to undertake this tremendous expansion here in Indianapolis. It was the only major piece of construction that General Motors undertook during the trough of the recession that we went through 3 or 4 years ago. And they enumerated several reasons why they did it. One was the quality of life here. One was the transportation that I've spoken of. Another was labor management relations, which are pretty good here. We don't have these gigantic upheavals because of strife. Another was race relations. We don't have a lot of racial strife. And then finally, they started talking about the availability of utilities, the availability of power and water, and also they talked about taxes and the relatively good setting for business because of the tax structure here in Indianapolis and in Indiana. So all these things add up and I think make Indianapolis a city that is growing to greatness and is on the edge of new discoveries and new plateaus of achievement.
Reflections of a City will continue in a moment.
I like Indianapolis fine. I've been here ever since I was 22 years old, and I'll soon be knocking the black out of 70 now.
I think Indianapolis is a beautiful city, especially if you have a family, and I have a larger family.
I find Indianapolis a nice place to live, to visit. We need better recreation for the kids.
Indianapolis has a broad economic base. Business is big and booming. Over 80 new firms a year find a new home here. New business means more jobs and more tax money. For example, the insurance industry has 60 firms headquartered here, and 6 area banks have combined resources of over $5.5 billion. Such diverse industries as Eli Lilly and Company, Indiana Bell, and a score of others contribute to the prosperous economy. One of the largest, Western Electric, manufactures nearly 50% of all telephones used in the country.
Advertising Age identified us as one of the 10 best growth markets in the entire United States. And that was a tremendous boost for us. The reason we have a AAA bond rating is because we have prudent fiscal management of our city's affairs. We have a very solid partnership between the public and the private sector. We have a resilient and a broad and a diversified economy. We're not a one industry town. You know, I guess in Hershey, Pennsylvania, if people stopped eating chocolate, the whole town would close up. You know, if people stop buying cars, Detroit closes up. But we have automobiles here, we have electronics here, we have insurance here, we have pharmaceuticals here, et cetera, et cetera. So all these things added together make for a rather stable and healthy financial picture. And I think people understand that. I think that Indianapolis is underrated nationally.
The city's unique form of government is another reason why Indianapolis appeals to business and industry. We spoke with Robert Kennedy, Director of Metropolitan Development, about Unigov.
I think Unigov has provided Indianapolis with a very efficient management system that is very responsive to the taxpayer. The mayor can make things happen where prior to Unigov, the mayor did not have total control over all the city departments to make the kinds of decisions that are necessary in an urban area.
Since its inception 8 years ago, Unigov continues to have its critics. The failure of the law to unify schools throughout the country has created a continuing and emotionally charged court battle over the way to meet federal guidelines on desegregation. But in other ways, Unigov has been beneficial to the city's residents.
Well, I hope that it has introduced some efficiencies in government by eliminating overlapping jurisdictions and consolidating responsibility. I hope also that through the broadening of the tax base to sustain some of the services that are delivered to the residents of Marion County, that we have a more solid picture. It's a form of government that has consolidated the city and the county. That was done by an act of the state legislature. I know sometimes it's controversial. My opinion is that you can't unscramble the eggs, and Unigov is here, and I think we've got to try to make it work as well as we can.
The city has a particularly appealing design as well. Alexander Ralston, the same man who helped draw up the plans for Washington, D.C., helped plan the spiderweb effect of Indianapolis, the circular hub with the streets as spokes radiating outward from the bustling metropolis to the always expanding residential communities. While geographic, economic, and governmental factors have an impact upon the corporate identity of the community, corporations are composed of people, and people have needs which are not satisfied by merely balancing the books. When work ends and the time is your own, the need for entertainment is paramount. Indianapolis offers fascinating ways in which to fill your free time, and we'll look at some of Indy's nightlife in a moment.
I love the opportunities that the city gave me in terms of developing my job.
The thing I like here is the way the city's laid out.
I think Indianapolis is a great city. It's a great city to live and a great place to do business.
Well, I've been here all my life. I like it.
After 9 o'clock, the only thing you can do is go to the movie. I mean, there's very little after evening entertainment except on Friday nights.
And there's more. The Indianapolis Symphony maintains a home base at Butler University's Clues Memorial Hall, but also tours extensively. Performances this year with the Indianapolis Symphony Choir in Washington's Kennedy Center and New York's Carnegie Hall brought raves from audiences and critics. Clues also plays host throughout the year to a wide range of events, anything from current Broadway smash hits to an evening with Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops. The Indianapolis Opera Company takes opera out of the confines of the theater to an open-air setting, while the Indianapolis Ballet Company showcases sparkling choreography and bright young dancers. If theater's your thing, there are the Indiana Repertory Theater, dinner theaters, footlight musicals, civic theater, the oldest continuously performing community theater in the country, the Repertory Company at Christian Theological Seminary, Starlight Musicals, Soul People's Repertory Company, and others. Located on the beautiful Eli Lilly Estate, the Indianapolis Museum of Art provides a unique setting in which to display prestigious examples of art in America, as well as a perfect opportunity to escape into an atmosphere of quiet serenity. There's the Indiana State Museum, as well as a museum just for kids. The Children's Museum is the largest of its kind in the entire world.
I like the Children's Museum because every time you come here, there's something else new. It's not just the same things all the time.
Because I love to ride on the merry-go-round.
I like the merry-go-round and the train and the cave.
Today we saw a film about Indianapolis, about how it keeps on growing.
One of the highlights of the city's splendid park system is Eagle Creek, the largest municipal park in the country. Among its delights on a lazy summer afternoon are sailing, swimming, canoeing, and sunbathing. If you want to get back to nature, the park offers 4,900 beautiful acres of land and water to explore at your leisure. In professional sports, you can bounce with the NBA Pacers, skate with the WHA Racers, pitch along with the Indianapolis Indians, and run with the newest entry, the Indy Daredevils of the American Soccer League. Tennis fans can watch the Loves of the WTT or attend the prestigious National Clay Courts Championships held here each summer and drawing the top pros like Jimmy Connors and Vitas Gerulaitis. For golfers, there are plenty of luxurious fairways and greens around the city, including some fine courses which have played host to national championships, including this year's LPGA. Leisure time activities are only a part of what we have come to call the quality of life. An extensive system of public and private schools, as well as a number of colleges and universities, contribute to Indiana's well-deserved reputation as a leader in education. The largest of these is IUPUI, a consolidation of Indiana and Purdue universities. One of the nation's largest medical complexes is the Indiana University School of Medicine. Dr. Glenn Irwin, Vice President of Indiana University, is in charge of IUPUI.
On a typical day, 1,800 people will come to see their doctor here or go to a clinic here. And we estimate that we move in and out 30,000 people just in the medical center in a typical day. So it's a very active center with some very famous components like the James Whitcomb Riley Hospital for Children and the Indiana University Hospital. It has so many sophisticated areas in it.
Besides IUPUI, there's Butler University, Indiana Central University, Marion College, Christian Theological Seminary, Indiana Vocational Technical College, and more. Healthcare is also important. About 25% of the entire state's medical care facilities are located in the Indianapolis metropolitan area. Specialized units use modern telecommunications equipment to offer consultation services to many hospitals outside the area. The personality of a city is formed in part by its racial and ethnic mix. Local attorney Faye Williams comments on race relations in Indianapolis.
Well, I think that one has to look at race relations on a comparative basis before you answer good or bad. Compared to my growing up as a black female in a small town in Texas, things, of course, have considerably improved. In terms of where I think I wish to be as a result of my years of hard work, I would say not so good, because there are still too many areas in my professional life as an attorney, in my civic life as a volunteer, that decision-making is not open to me.
Ms. Williams was asked her reaction to a recent Ebony magazine article naming Indianapolis as one of the nation's 10 best cities for blacks. It cited a relatively low crime rate, good school system, and living costs below those in comparable cities as reasons behind its rating.
I would say that I agree with the Ebony article, and in fact I would say it's one of the reasons why I continue to live in Indianapolis, that my sense of personal safety is greater in Indianapolis than, say, when I'm in Chicago or New York or Los Angeles. I'm able to live in a fairly decent neighborhood close to the center of the city, which does not make for great amounts of commuting time. Employment is secure. I have the ability to express myself in the community without a great deal of retaliation. So I think the Ebony article was correct when I look at other cities across the country.
The face of a city is part of its personality as well. Indianapolis architecture is a fascinating blend of old and new. Although much of the late 19th and early 20th century architecture has been lost, unfortunately, to the wrecking ball, that trend seems at last to have lost momentum. A greater public awareness of the intrinsic value of older structures has helped to motivate the younger generation to begin the process of renovation. The trend is towards a revitalized inner city, a place once more where people not only work but live. One area of special interest is the Old City Market, which recently was completely renovated to provide a gathering place for downtown workers to shop, eat, sit, and enjoy a diversion from the daily office grind. Public and private sector combined their efforts to create the all-new City Market.
City Market, I love City Market. Well, because it's home. Been here all our lives, born and raised here in City Market. In business 37 years, selling dead chicken. I remember all through the years when the summers were hotter than hell and the winters were cold, and I had more long winter underwear than anybody in the whole state. And that was because I had my hands in ice constantly, and we had no heat for many, many years. We know our customers by their first name. They like our personal touch. We're always very appreciative of their business, and we say thank you. And 9 out of 10 of them are friends. Not only customers, but friends.
A lot of people come like in the afternoon when the lunch stands, they come to get an apple or a pear or a banana, and to go with their lunch to make it sort of like a dessert.
You can tell what they need as you see them approach. You can have their lunch waiting for them on the counter most of the time, which proves that we're all creatures of habit. And the City Market is my habit.
Mounting inflation and the constant threat of an energy crisis mean that cities must be concerned about employment and transportation.
I think they're good. If you look at the national averages, our unemployment picture is not as bleak as it is in some areas where the unemployment's up around 13%, 14% overall. We do have pockets of high unemployment, particularly among young blacks, and this is of great concern to us.
And on transportation?
Well, we have a problem here because we don't have adequate mass transit. Our bus system is barely making it as it is, and there are students and senior citizens and others who, in the lower income brackets, who cannot afford cars, who need mass transit. And as the energy crisis comes, and I think the fundamental crisis we'll be facing in the 1980s is the energy crisis, we will have to decrease our dependence on the automobile. We'll have to learn the lesson of good stewardship of very finite resources that are petroleum-based, and that means learning the lesson of mass transit.
As the Red Queen says in Through the Looking Glass, you've got to run as fast as you can just to stay in one place. You've got to know where you're going before you start, or that first step could be treacherous. We'll take a look at the city's plans for tomorrow, right after this.
I like Indianapolis. I've been here for 25 years. I think it's a great city, and the people are great. They've all treated me real nice over the years.
I hate the traffic. It drives me bananas in no time, and I hate the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit.
It's a city that's growing, and I think the people in it are growing with it.
I left Hawaii for Indianapolis.
What does the future hold? Robert Kennedy, Director of Metropolitan Development, tells what he sees for tomorrow's downtown.
I think we're going to see the retailing start to pick up in the downtown area. I'd like to see us get into a lot of inexpensive, convenient parking in the downtown. I think we're going to see, and I'd like to see, some movie theaters downtown. We need to start looking toward an increase, sizable increase in the number of restaurants in the downtown area. The cultural activity in the downtown, I think, is going to increase with the activities that are going to occur in the Indiana Theater. I think we'll see more hotel space, considerably more office space downtown. The state office expansion will be somewhat dynamic in the downtown, the university expansion in the downtown.
Kennedy also emphasized the necessity for cooperation between public and private sectors.
About everything that has happened in the downtown, if it's worth anything, is a cooperative effort between the private sector, the public sector, and we don't seem to be able to get anything done without that cooperation. And we have a pretty good track record of working cooperatively between the public and private sector on various projects in the downtown area. I can see that continuing, and I would hope that we will get as much public support for those kinds of activities as is possible.
Mayor Hudnut is high on Indianapolis.
The University of Nebraska last summer conducted a study of 100 cities in the country and identified them in terms of quality of life as an attractive place in which to live. And they ranked Indianapolis 6th out of 100. You know, and if you discount their ethnocentrism that put Omaha and Lincoln in the top 5, we really were 4th. So quality of life, breadth of opportunities. So there are cultural opportunities here. There are nice neighborhoods in which to live. There are many good schools. There are good churches. It's a good place, I think, to raise a family, and I think people understand that.
Nobody can say with any real authority what the future holds for Indianapolis, but we can take comfort in the fact that we face the future with confidence. The confidence that comes from knowing where we have been and where we are today. Growing up is never easy, but with foresight and solid planning, we'll manage it as we always have. I'm Alpha Blackburn. Thank you for joining us.
The reason I like Indianapolis is because the first day me and my wife moved down here a week ago, we both found a job.
I came here because of a job offer, and I've stayed 17 years now and been very happy here.
I like it at this time of the year, but I wouldn't give you a dime for the sunbook in the winter or the middle of summer.